Hey everybody, welcome back to PristineZReads, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Ark, the Reed, and the Fire Cloud by Jenny L. Coate. So this is a new series that I'm starting just because fall is almost upon us. I'm starting school this week. I'm not ready. Not ready. I thought I was ready, but no, I'm not ready. But yeah, so new series, new season. Yeah, this series is pretty long. There are 8 books currently, and I've just recently finished rereading this to be an advanced reader for the next book in the series coming out. So I just thought I'd review it while it's still fresh in my brain, and this is a really great series that I knew I needed to review soon. So yeah, I'm just starting it now. Yeah, fall upload schedule, it will be back to normal, Sundays sharp. So yeah. I really don't have a specific time that I publish, just Sundays. So yeah, okay, let's get into the review. First up is my summary. Oh yeah, and this is different. This is not like no spoilers or super spoilers alone, because I've decided now that probably with my school and all my extracurriculars, I'm not going to have as much free time to edit like 2 videos. So I'm going to do like a book review, but I'll have a section of spoilers thoughts in the summary. So usually I have a no spoiler summary and then I have like a super spoiler summary, but this time I'm just going to have a section where I warn you guys that this is where the no spoilers stop and where the spoilers start, and yeah. But okay, we'll do it as we go. So, summary. This is kind of a retelling of the events of Noah's Ark. You guys can kind of tell by the cover. So basically it follows the Scottish Terrier named Max. You can see him right there. So Max is a Scottish Terrier. He's lived in Scotland all his puppy life. And one day he hears a voice in the reeds at his favorite pond telling him to come and follow the fire cloud. And Max is hesitant to do what the voice says because, first of all, it's a voice that doesn't belong to anybody. And second of all, because he doesn't want to leave Scotland and follow this fire cloud on a wild goose chase, or so he thinks. So he asks his mountain goat friend, Gillamon. Well, Gillamon has been Max's mentor all his life. And he asks Gillamon what he should do. And Gillamon says that, and Gillamon asks Max if he had ever considered that this voice is actually God's voice, and Max is like, no, I haven't considered that. So Gillamon says, well, you know, if it's God talking, you gotta obey him, right? So Max is like, okay, I don't want to leave you, and Gillamon's like, well, I'm old, time for me to die soon, so go ahead. Well, that's not really what he said, but basically that's what he said. So so Max does leave, and he starts following this fire cloud. It takes him through Ireland. While he goes through Ireland, he meets this lovable cat named Al, Albert Aloysius, but Al for short. And Al is just like a giant scaredy cat, literally. He is fluffy, orange, quite plump, loves to eat, but he is super scared. And so Max and Al team up because it turns out Al heard a voice too, and the voice is calling him to also follow the fire cloud, so they're journeying together. Oh, and eventually they have to cross the English Channel, and Max enlists the help of his whale friend Craddock, and he and Al both decide that they'll have to go on Craddock to cross the English Channel to follow the fire cloud going towards France. So they also meet this white Westie named Kate, and for Kate and Max it's basically love at first sight, you know, Westie, Scotty. So yeah, basically it's love at first sight. They cross the English Channel on Craddock, and when they reach France, they come across a carefully manicured, well-tended garden, and Al gets into some catnip, which is basically this plant that, like, if cats eat it, makes them go crazy and wild. So fortunately Al eats this because he was hungry, but he had no idea that it was catnip, so he just like ate it. So he went on a wild rampage and destroyed the garden basically until this chicken came along named Henriette, and she was like totally mad at Al and like whipped him into shape. And then they met Henriette's husband Jax and the gardener, which is Lisette Brillante. So Lisette is a petite French black cat. She's the gardener, but she's like super intellectual. She's like everything logic, logic, logic. There's a reason for everything, and yeah, she's super organized. And they meet those chicken rooster cat, and so they have been called to follow the fire cloud too. Big surprise! So yeah, so they all team up and they start following the fire cloud together, and as they go along they meet tons of new animals and they journey together, and so as they're journeying along, Max's seagull friends, Crinan and Bethu, who have also been called to follow the fire cloud, they tell Max that they're a bunch of animals who are wondering how to, like, you know, cross the ocean to get to where the Ark is. And Max is like, oh, well, what if we enlisted Craddock and all his whale buddies and dolphin buddies and, you know, sea creature buddies to help these creatures cross whatever ocean seas they gotta cross. So Crinan and Bethy think it's a brilliant idea, and they go around, like, basically connecting all the animals and the sea creatures together. And so basically Max turns out to be this kind of hero that's kind of like saved everybody who's been called to follow the fire cloud. And yes, when they reach the Ark, pretty much everybody knows Max, because, like, he's helped pretty much every person get there. And when they get to the Ark, it's kind of like a miracle. As soon as the animals, like, cross the threshold into their stall, it magically transforms. Well, I shouldn't say magically. The author made it very clear that it was definitely God's power, or, well, in the book they call him the maker, same thing. And the stall transforms into the natural habitat of these animals. So, for example, the polar bears would cross the threshold and it would turn into, like, this Arctic tundra where it's, like, completely snowy and icy and just the right temperature for them. But, like, for example, the lions, zebras, giraffes, when they cross the threshold into their stall, it turns into, like, a humid desert. It turns into, like, a dry, arid desert habitat for them. So yeah, it's really cool. This is, like, super creative. I never would have thought of this. But yeah, anyways, but more is up in the Ark than meets the eye. Even with all these miracles happening, there's a mysterious creature that is causing strife between the animals, and he's been stealing little objects from them and been causing chaos, and so naturally it falls on Max to find out who this guy is. But after a while they are stuck and can't figure out who this creature is. The animals are continuing to, like, grow restless, but Liz has the idea of, like, a talent show and morning exercise and evening dances for the animals, and all sorts of animals participate, like the flamingos, a snake named Charlie, the toucans, the monkeys, all of them. Yeah, I was proud to see my fellow Canucks with the moose and the black bear, and unfortunately the skunk had to come from Canada. And the woodpeckers, and yeah, anyway, so it's really cool with all these animals, but I'll have to kind of stop the non-spoiler section right here, and so I'll leave you guys who want no spoilers with my signature question. Will Max be able to find out who this strange creature is? And what happens when the result hits harder to home than he thought ever possible? Will he be able to trust what goes deep? And will their entire crew be able to save all of the animals and the last 8 humans alive? You'll have to find out. So yeah, that's your summary. If now you want to go straight to the morals, go to my description. I have a timestamp right there, and just click on it. It'll take you to the part in the video. And yeah, but now for those of you who want the spoilers, I'm continuing with that. So on with the summary. So while their time on the Ark is drawing close to an end as the waters have started receding, Liz finds out who this imposter is, this mysterious creature, through a series of clues. For one example being that at the dance, all the animals, like, danced in pairs, right? Because each of them has a mate, except one animal did not have a mate. And then also another hint was once when Liz figured out the meaning of this animal's name. So it turns out that the animal Charlie, the snake, his full name is His full name is Novell Charlatan. Not sure if I pronounced Novell novel charlatan. And it means original imposter. And he's the one who didn't have a partner at the animal dance. And so Liz does some digging, and what she finds in his stall are 2 snakes tied together in a knot and gagged, and so they can't escape from the stall. So it turns out that this charlatan has obviously, like, you know, tied those snakes away and been infiltrating the animals in the ark. But right then the ark runs aground on the mountain, and the waters have receded enough for them to exit, so there's this massive exodus going out of the ark. And as they go, Liz tries to tell Max Charlie's real identity, but Max has been blinded by his own self, as charlatan has kind of been a friend to him. Like, once he saved his life while a grain sack was falling off the edge of a railing, and Charlie just like pushed Max out of the way and took the blow for him. So Max had trusted Charlie ever since that incident. So it's hard for Max to believe Liz, but Liz knows she's right. So when they exit the ark, Kate and Al get separated from Max and Liz. And while Liz is, she's kind of sitting on the rock waiting for the animals to pass, and charlatan comes up behind her and reveals himself, turning from a chameleon snake into a massive king cobra. And he and Liz have a little, like, face-off, and then charlatan bites her. Of course, the poison is fatal. And Max sees this a little too late as he comes running, but now he believes, of course, that, now he believes that Liz is right, although it's too late to save her. And so Max starts fighting charlatan. Charlatan also bites Max, so Max is fatally wounded. But then a human steps in, Shem, Noah's son. He steps in and sees charlatan attacking Max, and knows, of course, that, you know, that's not right. So he comes running and throws charlatan off the edge of the mountain. So yeah, that's done, although Max and Liz are now dead. Though as the first rainbow appears in the sky, Noah and his family make their first sacrifice to Lord, they hear a voice. Well, at least the animals hear the voice. To the humans and the other animals, it sounds like thunder. But God says that Max and Liz have served him faithfully, and now he is going to reward them by bringing them back to life. So Max and Liz are brought back to life. But then, shocker, God says that not only has he restored them back to life, but he has now made Max and Liz and Kate and Al immortal, so they'll be God's special agents throughout the entire history of the human race. And yeah, so that's that happy ending. And so that's what the rest of the series is about. Animals kind of go through time, or like we see their different adventures throughout the periods of time. The next one, The Dreamer, the Schemer, and the Robe, which I'll have a review out for next week, will be the story of Joseph and, you know, the whole Egypt thing. So yeah, that's really cool. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for the summary. Let's head on over to the morals now. So, non-spoiler people, thank you for coming back. I know this is kind of confusing, but I mean, it's the only way I could think of to kind of have just one video to edit. And yeah, so okay, morals. First step is worldviews. So Jenny L. Cote is like a strong Christian author. I mean, you kind of have to be like, you can't really like write about these events and not be Christian. I guess you could, but anyways, yeah. So she's a strong Christian author. The events line up pretty perfectly with the Bible. Of course, there's some artistic license taken by her, like, you know, the whole habitat changing thing, the whole fire cloud thing, bringing the animals back to life. Of course, that's her imagination. But I have to say, the story is like really amazing. She's so creative. So I didn't find any other prominent worldviews displayed in this book. Of course, there was the enemy, charlatan, but he got his just dessert in the end. There was also a scene before the whole flood started, where Shem's friend, Abby, was at his wife's sister's wedding feast, and, you know, it's kind of wild, but it's just to give us a little glimpse of how wicked humanity was before the flood came. So yeah, that's it for morals. Next up is violence. So there's like little to zero here. The only moments that I could like possibly find were like when there were some flashbacks to Max's childhood, where there were wolves chasing him and they killed his mother, but like we didn't get a super detailed description of that. There's like nothing bloody or gory here. It's a really G, like movie rating G. And then the other only possible scene where there could have been like some violence was when, you know, spoilers guys, when Charlatan was, you know, biting Max and Liz, and then Jem threw it off the mountain. But yeah, okay, so that's it for violence. Next up is foul language. So 0. Zilch. Non-existent. That's it. Let's move on to romance. So, of course, you know, Max and Kate fell in love. So did Albert and Liz. But, you know, that's like puppy love, literally. So, yeah, it was super clean. There's, like, nothing inappropriate. Of course, you know, all the animals on the ark they're all couples. And then, you know, there was Noah and his wife and all their sons' wives, too. But, you know, that's just the way it was. So yeah, moving on to my rating, recommended age level. So I'm gonna rate this 4 stars. I really liked it. I would say that the reading level is just slightly more on the middle grade end of the spectrum. Like, it's not too complicated that like 10-year-olds can't understand it. But it does have a good subplot and character arcs that teens and probably adults will enjoy it too. So I'm gonna put the age level at 10 to 11 plus. Again, that's kind of on the middle grade end, but I mean, you know, anybody up from that can read it too. So yeah, I really like this book. I would highly recommend it. It's whimsical, it's heartwarming, it's so adventurous, and yeah, it just keeps getting better as you go through the series. My personal favorites don't come until a little later down in the series. But yeah, this was an amazing first start to an amazing series. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys liked this video. If so, please leave a thumbs up down below and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And maybe share this video with somebody you think might enjoy my channel content as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Food! Real food! Said Al as he ran past the hen and the hummingbirds and went diving into a pile of greens. He was oblivious to anyone or anything other than food. He proceeded to stuff his mouth full of the aromatic herbs. Tears of joy streamed down his cheeks from the fact that he finally had something to eat other than plankton and salt water and sand.
What kind of wimpy cat is this? I eat meat, beef, lamb, chicken, pork, ham, turkey, sausage, bacon!
Unfortunately, the fuzzy gray-green herb plant that Al ate first was catnip. As Al bruised the leaves with his big paws, an irresistible oil was released that drove him crazy with excitement. Al proceeded to trample all the neighboring plants as he went on a feeding frenzy. He ran over to the cabbage and ate several leaves before trouncing onto the nearby thyme.
Actually, scratch that. I eat meat, but I also eat cabbage. Just the other day, my owners were eating cabbage coleslaw, and without them knowing, they dropped some on the floor. I bolted on it as quick as a flash and gobbled it up, and before they could even know that happened, it was down my esophagus.
Next were the carrots and the chives. Al was a whirlwind of destruction, finally jumping on top of a tomato plant, bringing it crashing down, splattering red, juicy tomatoes all over his orange fur. He looked like a big fat tomato himself.
The cat looks like a tomato. know, all things considered, if I was a cat, which, thank God, I am not a cat, I would probably be that cat because, my love for food